Let me tell you something that'll change the trajectory of your life. Success is not an accident. It's not a mystery. It's a formula. It's a law. And just like gravity, it works whether you understand it or not. But here's the part most folks miss. Success is just as much about what you don't do as what you do. If you want to rise, if you want to break generational curses, if you want to step into a higher dimension of wealth, influence, and impact, you've got to eliminate the behaviors that sabotage your destiny. Successful people never let emotions override principles. You see, emotions are great servants, but terrible masters. You can't build $1 million life on $1,000 feelings. Successful people move by principles. They understand that success is governed by laws, not moods. When things get hard, when people walk away, when the bank account dips, they don't panic, they don't retreat. They hold fast to vision, and they walk by faith, not by sight. Successful people never waste time on things they can't control. You will never hear a wealthy mind obsessing over what the government is doing, what their ex is saying, or what the economy looks like. You know why? Because they know they are the economy. They don't focus on the storm, they focus on the seed. The ground doesn't care who the president is, it'll grow whatever you plant. So successful people plant, water, cultivate, and reap. And they leave the rest to God and time. Successful people never speak death over their dreams. Words are not just sounds. Words are containers. They carry life or death, power or weakness, destiny or defeat. You will never catch a truly successful person saying, I can't, I don't know how, or maybe one day. They speak life. They declare the end from the beginning. They prophesy their future like it's already done. They understand that creation starts in conversation. What you say is what you sow. Successful people never keep small-minded company. Don't miss this. The people you surround yourself with are either pulling you forward or holding you back. If everyone around you is comfortable losing, broken mindset, allergic to accountability, and threatened by your growth, you are not being loyal, you're being foolish. Eagles don't explain their flight to pigeons. If you want to rise, run with people who make your excuses feel uncomfortable and your dreams. Successful people never confuse motion with progress. Busyness is not productivity. Activity is not accomplishment. You can be spinning your wheels, burning out, and still going nowhere. Successful people don't just work hard, they work right, they track, they measure, they adjust, they focus on results, not routine. They don't just want movement, they want multiplication. Successful people never violate the law of seed time and harvest. You don't get mangoes because you're hungry, you get mangoes because you planted, waited, and harvested. There's a divine order to increase, and successful people honor that process. They don't quit in the time of waiting. They don't dig up their seed just because they don't see fruit yet. They understand faithfulness in time brings favor in harvest. Let me give you a warning. The enemy of success is not failure, it's distraction. It's the little compromises, the unguarded thoughts, the wasted time, the undisciplined emotions, the wrong associations. You're not missing your future because you're unqualified. You're missing it because you're undisciplined. But that can change today. You can decide right now to stop doing what unsuccessful people keep doing. So if you want to become someone you've never been, you've got to stop doing what you've always done. Separate yourself. Discipline yourself. Declare over yourself. Surround yourself and sow into your future like it's already yours, because it is. The only thing standing between you and the life God designed for you is what you're willing to stop doing today. Let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich. And let the unsuccessful say, that ends with me, because it does. And your future is waiting. Successful people never let emotions override principles. That doesn't mean they don't feel pain. It doesn't mean they don't get frustrated, angry, or even afraid. It simply means they don't make decisions based on those emotions. They've trained themselves to respond, not react. Reaction is emotional. Response is principle-based. When pressure comes, emotions scream, do something now. But principle says, do what's right, not what's easy. You've got to understand that emotions are temporary, but consequences are permanent. A successful person knows that when emotions rise, logic often disappears. And that's when people make choices that cost them years. They say things they can't take back. They make financial decisions out of fear. They quit relationships or businesses because they're tired, not because it's time, and then they regret it. But successful people have learned to pause in the storm. They've learned that consistency to principle is the anchor that holds when everything else is shaking. Principle is what tells you to honor even when you're offended, to stay committed even when you feel unmotivated, to keep sowing even when you're tired. That's how empires are built, not by emotion, but by conviction. Feelings follow actions, not the other way around. The truth is, if you let how you feel determine what you do, you will always be at the mercy of your environment. But when you let what you believe determine what you do, then your environment becomes subject to you. Successful people live by values, not vibes. They don't need to feel like it. They're going to do it anyway because they understand that obedience to principle brings promotion. It's not about how you feel right now. It's about what kind of future you're building. The seed you sow in tears today becomes the harvest you reap in joy tomorrow. Don't give your emotions authority. They were never meant to have. They're indicators, not decision makers. Master your emotions or they will master you. And mastery is the difference between potential and purpose. That's what successful people know, and that's why they win. Successful people never waste time on things outside their control. They understand a fundamental truth. Energy is limited, and focus is a currency. Whatever you give your attention to, you empower. So if you spend your days complaining about circumstances you can't change, you are literally handing your power over to something that can't even hear you, let alone help you. That's not just unproductive, that's self-sabotage. Look around, most people are exhausted, not because they're working hard, but because they're emotionally drained from worrying about things they were never designed to carry. They're watching the news 24/7, arguing with people online, obsessing over someone else's opinion, or stressed about a door that's already closed. That's not wisdom, that's distraction. And distraction is the enemy of destiny. Successful people don't play that game. They've made peace with this reality. They can't control the weather, but they can control how they prepare. They can't control other people's actions, but they can control their own reaction. They can't stop the storm, but they can choose whether they build a house on sand or on rock. This is why successful people spend their time on what matters. They invest energy into learning new skills, building relationships, sharpening their mindset, managing their resources, and cultivating their inner world. They plant seeds in soil they can water. They're not waiting on the government, the boss, the economy, or their family to save them because they've realized they are the CEO of their own life. They don't waste mental bandwidth on what someone else should have done. They focus on what they can do now. And that's where growth happens. See, when you focus on what you can control, your attitude, your effort, your schedule, your integrity, your preparation, you activate a force far greater than your circumstances. You begin to shift your life from reactive to proactive, from victimhood to vision, from wishing to working. That's when doors open. That's when people take notice. That's when results start to multiply. Because success doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from mastering yourself. And when you stop wasting time on things outside your control, you start building a life where nothing can control you. Successful people never speak death over their dreams. They understand that words are not just sound, they are spiritual contracts. Every time you open your mouth, you are either building your future or breaking it down. You are either speaking life or speaking limitation. The tongue is a creative force, and successful people know this deeply. They do not casually say things like, I can't, I'm not ready, or maybe someday, because they know that the words you say most often become the beliefs you hold most deeply. Average people speak according to what they see, but successful people speak according to what they believe. They understand that the vision must come out of their mouth before it ever comes into their life. They declare the end from the beginning, even when it looks like nothing is happening, even when the bank account is low, even when the opportunity hasn't shown up yet. They speak in alignment with their destiny, not their difficulty. Words are like seeds. If you speak doubt, fear, failure, and delay, you're planting weeds in your own garden. But if you speak faith, purpose, increase, and destiny, you're preparing the ground for harvest. Successful people don't joke about failure. They don't repeat stories of defeat, and they certainly don't agree with people who try to put a lid on their potential. They correct themselves mid-sentence if they have to, because they know one careless word can cost them momentum. They also understand something deeper. Your mouth reveals what's truly in your heart. And your life will always follow the direction of your most dominant words. So if you keep talking about how hard it is, how tired you are, how long it's taking, you'll start believing that story and living inside of it. But if you speak like someone who already possesses the promise, even while you're still in the process, you align yourself with the principles of breakthrough. Successful people have mastered the language of vision. They don't deny their reality, but they don't let it define them either. They say things like, I'm building, I'm learning, I'm getting better, I'm walking into my next level. And every time they do, they reinforce the mindset that success demands, because they know life and death are in the power of the tongue. And those who love it will eat its fruit. They've chosen to eat the fruit of life, and that begins with the words they speak. Successful people never keep small-minded company. They understand that proximity is power. Who you surround yourself with will either elevate you or eliminate your potential. If you spend your time around people who are comfortable being average, people who mock ambition, people who celebrate comfort over calling, eventually that mindset will creep into your spirit. And the most dangerous thing about small-minded company is that it makes small thinking feel normal. Now, you can't grow big dreams in toxic soil. You can't talk about legacy, wealth, purpose, and impact in a room where people are still arguing about blame, gossiping about others, and laughing at people who try to break the mold. Successful people don't apologize for wanting more, and they don't ask for permission to grow. They deliberately protect their environment because they know every conversation is either pulling them forward or holding them back. They've learned that not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. And that's okay. Elevation requires separation, not from a place of pride, but from a place of clarity. When God puts something big in your heart, you cannot nurture that vision around people who can't even see it. Successful people don't confide in those who haven't done what they're trying to do. They don't seek counsel from the unfruitful. They look for mentors, peers, and partners who carry excellence, who think generationally, who speak in possibilities, and who challenge them to level up. This doesn't mean they cut everyone off with a cold heart. It means they steward access with wisdom. They can love people without letting those people influence their vision. They can honor their history without being handcuffed to it, because successful people have a future that demands their full attention, and they refuse to dilute it by staying loyal to environments that drain their faith. Growth creates distance. When you rise, you'll notice fewer people can breathe at your altitude. That's not rejection, that's confirmation. You weren't built to blend in, you were designed to break through. So successful people guard their circle, protect their focus, and surround themselves with people who remind them of where they're going, not where they've been. They don't keep small-minded company because they know you become like the company you keep. Successful people never keep small-minded company. They understand that the people around them are either feeding their future or starving it. You cannot grow a big vision while staying connected to people who only think in terms of survival. Small-minded individuals don't talk about purpose, legacy, or mastery. They talk about people, problems, and limitations. And when you spend enough time around that kind of thinking, it starts to sound like wisdom. But it's not wisdom, it's fear dressed up as common sense. The truth is, small minds can't carry big dreams. They shrink everything to fit their comfort zone. When you say, I want to build something that lasts, they say, don't get your hopes up. When you say, I'm going to invest in myself, they say, that's too risky. When you say, I know I'm called to more, they say, why can't you just be satisfied? And that's exactly why successful people choose their company with intention. They don't need agreement, they need alignment. They don't need cheerleaders, they need challengers who stretch their thinking and expand their capacity. It's not about arrogance, it's about assignment. Successful people know they are called to something bigger, and they refuse to let loyalty to the wrong crowd become disloyalty to their calling. They understand that every relationship is either a weight or a wing. Some people keep you grounded, others help you fly, and if you confuse the two, you'll sabotage your own ascent. They also know that iron sharpens iron. Growth happens in the presence of other builders, so they put themselves in rooms where excellence is normal, where abundance isn't just talked about, it's lived, where ideas aren't ridiculed, they're refined. Because when you're surrounded by visionaries, dreamers, and doers, your standard for what's possible begins to rise. Successful people don't keep small-minded company because they've made a decision. Their destiny is too important, their time is too valuable, and their future is too bright to be dimmed by people who are committed to staying the same. They walk with those who are going somewhere. They link arms with those who are building something, and in doing so, they create momentum that can't be stopped. Successful people never confuse motion with progress. They understand that just because you're busy doesn't mean you're effective. In fact, some of the busiest people in the world are going absolutely nowhere. They've mistaken movement for momentum, and as a result, they end up exhausted but empty-handed. Motion feels like work, but progress produces results. Successful people don't just want to feel productive, they want to be productive. Most people spend their lives running in circles, doing 1,000 little things that look impressive but lead to nothing. They answer every email, take every meeting, chase every idea, and wonder why nothing ever changes. That's because they're addicted to activity. But successful people are addicted to outcomes. They ask different questions. They don't just ask, what am I doing? They ask, is what I'm doing moving me closer to the goal? They track their time. They measure their effort. They evaluate their output. They don't get caught in the trap of staying busy just to avoid the discomfort of focus, and they don't confuse being overwhelmed with being important. Because they know real progress is not about doing more, it's about doing the right things with precision and intention. Successful people live by principles like prioritization, delegation, and elimination. They understand that their purpose requires strategy, not chaos. So they eliminate distractions, automate the routine, and delegate what doesn't demand their direct attention. They don't major in minor things. They know that every yes costs them something, so they say no often and unapologetically. They also embrace something most people avoid: silence, reflection, stillness. Why? Because they know clarity doesn't come from constant motion, it comes from focused alignment. When they pause to review, refine, and realign, they make better decisions, and better decisions lead to better outcomes. Successful people never confuse motion with progress because they've matured beyond the need to look busy. They're not trying to impress anybody, they're trying to build something that lasts. And they understand that excellence isn't about how much you do, but how well you do what matters most. Successful people never violate the law of seed time and harvest. They understand that success is a process, not a quick fix. Just like you can't plant a seed today and expect a harvest tomorrow, you can't expect overnight results from hard work and faith. There is a divine order to everything that grows. A season for planting, a season for watering, and a season for reaping. Ignoring this natural rhythm only leads to frustration and disappointment. Many people try to force their harvest before the time is right. They get impatient and dig up the seed wondering why nothing is growing. But successful people know better. They understand that you cannot speed up the process by worrying, complaining, or quitting early. Instead, they commit to consistency and faithfulness in the season of waiting. They water their dreams daily with positive action, belief, and persistence, knowing that every seed planted will produce fruit in its season. They respect time because time is the space where growth happens. It's the invisible work, the preparation, the character building, the refining that sets the stage for the visible success. Successful people don't compare their timeline to anyone else's. They focus on their own progress and trust that the harvest will come when it's ready. They don't cheat the process by taking shortcuts that compromise their integrity or quality, because they know those shortcuts produce temporary gain but long-term loss. The law of seed time and harvest also teaches patience. Successful people are patient, not passive. They remain active in their planting and watering, but they don't rush the results. They understand that faith is the evidence of things not yet seen, and patience is the virtue that holds on to that faith. When others give up, successful people stand firm.